This is Frank Klesitz with Vyral Marketing with Jeff Glover with Glover U. You guys
Hey,
know who he is. He's the man. He's the real estate trainer throughout Michigan and greater throughout the country's growing. It's awesome to watch all the people showing up at your events, man. You're doing such a wonderful job, Jeff.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys showing up and obviously helping us out too.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a discussion today, guys. We're gonna talk about building a database. Hopefully you enjoyed in the write-up about being held hostage by lead providers. Did you like that metaphor? Is being held hostage when someone else is in charge of the lead, someone else is in charge of bringing in the business, and that means you're going to pay them the pound of flesh. And instead of now of a monthly fee, now it's usually a 35% referral fee. And I wouldn't be surprised if eventually it goes up to 50% because that's really what those leads are worth. That's what reload companies charge.
Yep.
And that's probably what it's going to end up as everything kind of shakes out in the industry. So today, if you have no database, never worked your database, don't know what a database is, and you're starting from scratch, you're going to learn from Jeff on how to build a database from scratch today. We're going to talk about how to build it. And we also have plenty of Q&A here. The reason I wanted you guys on early is so you have any questions you can ask Jeff. I opened the question and answer over here on the webinar. So feel free to ask Jeff any question. We'll talk about it today, but I'm just going to drill Jeff with some questions, and I'll interject if I have something provocative to say that might be insightful. And let's teach some people some stuff. Sound good, buddy?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So the whole idea here is I think at Gary, let me pull something up on my screen. So Gary Keller shared a slide at Family Reunion this year that I thought was just so powerful. And I want your thoughts on this slide with regard to the return on investment based upon how many people somebody has in their list. Let me pull this up on my screen and get it formatted just right for you guys. Let me get rid of all the other tabs so when I share this over, it doesn't completely confuse everybody. Here we go. And give me a second. I'm close. There we go. There's our slide. So we don't see real estate as a database-based business, Jeff. Take a look at these numbers. This is what Gary put on the screen. 50 to 100 grand in commission with 630 people on the list with the number of touches. 100 or $200,000 in commission with 34 touches, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on these numbers? Give me your insight in the years of being in business and the truth of these numbers, and what does this chart mean to you when you see it?
Well, I'll tell you what, what's interesting about that, and I appreciate this kind of a conversation. Up until 4 or 5 years ago, I was in a position where I really could give two rips about those numbers. Most of my business was prospecting based and a ton of mass advertising. And so my focus was really just to fill the funnel with new clients. Well, then once I realized that the ROI on that wasn't as great as I would like it to be, we shifted our focus about 4 years ago to the database. And it's amazing the difference in ROI on that group versus advertising on TV, or even paying a team of telemarketers to make prospecting calls for you. Nothing has a better ROI than that group. And we've experienced it firsthand. And I can tell you 4 years ago, when it wasn't a big focus, the return we got on our database was it wasn't even something we tracked. It was our number 5 or number 6 source of business. And today, our SOI and database and past client referrals, they're number 1 source of business. And that went from say number 6 to number 1 in 4 years. And so it means everything to us now. And it wasn't an area that we focused on at all.
So why does someone need to focus on this now? Why would you say this is more important now than maybe 4 years ago to focus on your list?
Yeah.
And speaking to probably, a newer agent.
Sure. Yeah. One of the biggest things is, quite frankly, a lot of it has to do with technology, actually. And the reason is because technology is making the game a lot easier for clients and prospective clients to do their own research, to find their own properties, to figure out who they're going to interview. So we need to figure out a way to provide value in other ways. Like for instance, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, our best way to add value was a free CMA, right? Like that was the hook. You know, you'd send out a postcard and you'd say, hey, for a free CMA, call this number. Nobody responds to those anymore because they can get it online, right? They can get it from Zillow or they can get it from the apps that are out there. So we need to find a different way to add value to that group because technology is taking some of the values that we used to be known for off of our plate. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So how do you add value? So again, I want to really get into how do you build your database today from scratch.
Yeah.
But just give us a taste of like, what are some of the value propositions when you're asking someone to go to, well, let me ask you this question instead of me saying it. Yeah. What would you define as your database?
Great question. Yeah.
Who's in your database?
Yeah. So we have two separate databases. Okay. One database is our past clients and our center of influence, people that know us, like us, trust us. We've either met them or had enough conversations where we felt they deserve to be put into the database and are people that would refer us business in the future because of the conversations that we've had. And so they made their way into that database. So that's sphere of influence, past clients, and very close to those as well. So if it's not somebody that we've met, but we've had 4 or 5 conversations and, you know, over the phone or through email, and this is somebody that trusts us and believes in us, they get to make it into what we would call the master database. Then you have the other database, which we don't even really call it a database. We call them essentially the bank of prospects.
Like an email.
Correct. These are the people that maybe inquired on a property 6 months ago, 6 years ago. I mean, who knows what's in there? It's really just a group of prospects. Those are treated completely differently than the first group.
Got it. Okay. So why don't you give us just a quick idea? We don't have to go too in depth right now. Is what does Group A get and what does Group B get?
Yep. So if Group A is the sphere of influence past clients, we follow a very simple, and if you haven't picked up on this by now, I'm like bad with technology. I'm as simple as it gets. All right. We follow a very simple 4 by 2 by 1. And then you could add by 12. Okay. Which to me, the by 12 is important, but it's not as important as the 4 by 2 by 1. All right. So I'll walk you through that. So the 4, all right. The 4 is 4 pieces of physical mail once per quarter. All right. So the 4 is 4 pieces of physical mail once per quarter. The 2 is 2 phone calls where we don't ask for business. So one is at basically 1 every 6 months. 2 phone calls, we don't ask for business. And I can explain each one of these if you want. And then the one is 1 big client event. So 4 pieces of physical mail, 2 phone calls, not asking for business, and I'll explain what we do on the calls, and 1 client event. And then, of course, the times 12, they get 1 newsletter email to them per month for 12 months. All right. So that's the other piece, if you will. And so what we're mailing is what we believe things of value, right? So in January, we mail a year in review, what has gone on so far this year. All right. In March, we mail them an invite to our client appreciation party. All right. In July, we mail them so far this year, what's going on, market stats and so forth. And then in the fall or right before December the 5th, we send them a holiday card with a little fridge magnet calendar, right? Those have been around for like 5 decades now, probably. So those are our 4 pieces of mail. Not like, holy crap, this is all brand new stuff, right? 2 phone calls. 1 phone call is a phone call in March, following up with them to make sure they got an invite to our client event. We do it in March because, of course, in a seasonal market, especially, when do people start thinking about buying or selling? In the spring. And our client event, we hold it in April. Again, we picked a client event that's in the spring. Okay, we're in a seasonal market. So that's our first call, or an invite to our client appreciation party. The second call is a call around Thanksgiving, thanking them for their Referrals, continued referrals, thanking them for their business. Even if they're not sending us any referrals, we're thanking them for their continued referrals, just kind of assuming that that's going on. And those are the 2 phone calls. All right. Again, we didn't ask for any business on those calls. And then we do 1 client event, which is in April. And we do that. We've done that every year for the past 4 years. And I will say today, when we look at our past client and sphere of influence from that group, the A group, that's about 350 transactions a year come out of that group. And of course, the 12 emails. The emails are they're your typical realtor newsletters, but we dress them up a little bit, right? So sometimes we use video, sometimes we use market stats, sometimes we use, a review of, hey, everything that we did at our client appreciation party and how much money we raised and photos of everybody. Every month is a little bit different, but it's a monthly digital newsletter.
Got it.
So that's what we do for the A group. And now the only thing I'll say, I'll put a little asterisk on that 1 for the client events, because one thing we added this year is a program where we're basically working with our associates to put on events with them. So all of our associates are given a budget, and we have a staff person where that's their main responsibility to help them coordinate client events. And we've got money set aside for each one of our associates so they can have their own client events in addition to the big company-wide one.
Is that your opening day?
That's right. Yeah. Detroit Tigers. Yeah.
It's amazing. Can someone Google to find that video?
Yeah.
You have it up online? What would someone type in to find your annual company event video?
Yeah, so that's a great one. Let me see. Jeff Glover opening day. I think that'll pull it up. Let me just check here. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you just type in Jeff Glover opening day, the top 2 videos, you have Yep.
It's pretty sweet, dude.
Yeah, you got the one from this year and the one from last year, so both of them are there.
Cool. Okay. Yep. So I like that. Now let's so that kind of gives you an idea of the touching. Let's talk about the B group now. What do you give them?
So the B group, I'm kind of from the old school, right? So I really think of the people that are in that CRM. We're kind of cut from the same cloth to some degree. I think of the CRM as the trash can, right? Like they're in there, maybe somebody will come out of there. We do get some business from people that have been in there for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, but it's your soft drip campaigns to buyers and soft drip campaigns to for sellers. And the CRM we use obviously notifies us if they come to life somehow and start looking at properties, but it's kind of like a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Got it. Okay. So let's now speak to somebody that just moved to Michigan.
Yeah.
From San Diego. I don't know a soul. Okay. And I want to build a very database business over time. I like that idea. So I'm down with sending out the quarterly mailers. I like inviting to the annual event. I like doing my own events. I would love to start sending out newsletters. I'm going to sneeze. Send out newsletters. How do I build my database of the right people? Let's talk about building a database from scratch.
Yeah. So a couple things. Number one, obviously, the method I used, which was just picking up the phone and prospecting for sale by owners and expireds. And I will tell you, we've kept the same kind of culture, if you will, in that at the bottom of our daily log sheets, I don't know if I have one around here, but if you can imagine, I'll just use this piece of paper. If you can imagine a daily log sheet, right? Contacts, leads, appointments, right? At the bottom, we have a category that says add to database. So every day it was an understanding. This was back when it was just me. And then when we started adding some ISAs, every day my goal was to add 4 people to the database every day. So that means whether I'm talking to 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, whatever the number is, I need to find 3 to 4 people that I can write in down here at the bottom that I had a great conversation with, that I can send a handwritten thank you card, I can send a calendar out to, meaning, and I'm talking a great conversation. So basically you got everything on the call except for an appointment, right? Like you felt good about everything on there, and you hit it off with them, and they might have even said, you know what, if we can think of anyone, we'll send them your way, whatever. I want to identify 3 to 4 people a day that I can add to the database. And I did that for years. And the problem is I did a really good job of adding people to the database, But it wasn't until a few years ago, 4 years ago, that we actually did something with it, right? Like I went through the daily activity of adding people, but I wasn't really good at, I sent like a Christmas card or something like that up until the last 4 years. So I did it through phone prospecting, number one, all right? Number two, now as time has gone on, of course, I've done a ton of, oh, thank you, they must have overheard me. Okay, so this is the daily log sheet, right?
Hold that up and hold it there. Hold that there so it stays in focus. It's good.
Sorry. So there's the top half, the normal stuff that we talk about, right? Attempts, appointments set, the time that I'm prospecting, my start time, my end time, contacts made, all right? My sources for sell by owners, expires, SOI, lead follow-up, just listed, just sold. And then down here, add to database. So I said 4, I guess it went down to 3. So that means every day, my mentality is this is my daily log sheet, right? This is my sheet for the day. I can't go home until I got 3 people that I can add to the database. And then once I'm done for the day, I just set the sheet aside. And at the end of the week, back in the day when it was just me, I would enter people into our Excel spreadsheet. Today, somebody else is doing that. But speaking of Excel, you probably won't be surprised to hear this, Frank. You know that we didn't have a database up until 2 years ago?
What is that? How's it even possible? It's crazy.
We were doing 900 transactions 2-3 years ago, and without a database. An Excel spreadsheet was our database. No database. Nothing.
I've seen some pretty big companies run Excel.
Hey, it worked for us. But you know what?
It did work.
That goes back to our mentality. We weren't really good at massaging and getting the best out of people we already had conversations with up until the last few years. And now that's changed.
I think it also has to say is that you didn't let your agents get caught up in the technology, and you just wanted them on the phone.
100%. You could spend an hour. I hate when I hear people say, "Oh, spend an hour in your CRM." What are you doing? What? Staring at the screen, pointing and clicking, moving people from one side to the other? No, you can get most of that stuff done in 10, 15 minutes as long as you just keep talking to people.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. I love that sheet. So I look at that sheet. What I saw was income, but the bottom was wealth.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Yep.
So let me ask you this, man. Between you and all of your agents following that sheet, so the agents that are actually committed to using that sheet, how many people in a week would you say they speak with? So take all the agents, number of contacts a week of all the agents using that sheet.
So I know the number pretty well because I do our 7:30 a.m. accountability call. We do that every morning, Monday through Friday. And I would say our average OSA, so we have outside sales associates. Those are the agents that go out and go on appointments. And we have inside sales associates. Those are the agents that stay back and prospect for the outside sales associates. So our outside sales associates are averaging 12 to 15 contacts a day. We have some that are hitting 20 to 30. We have others that are 7 to 10. But on average, it's about 12 to 15 contacts a day, 5 days a week. So
per associate?
Per associate, that's right.
About 60 a week. And how many do you have?
Times 30.
Wow.
30 OSAs.
Is that 1,800? It's 1,800.
Something like that. Mm-hmm.
So there's 1,800 people a week your team's speaking with.
Across the state of Michigan, yep.
Wow, times 4.
Between the two markets, we've got 6 million people. So we got 4 million people in Detroit and 1.5 million in Grand Rapids, and then maybe another 500,000 in Kalamazoo.
Well, you're basically turning your agents into human opt-in forms by saying, what's your email address, and bringing it in.
Yeah. It's a big part of how we grow the database. And, it's amazing to me because years and years ago, I wasn't a big fan of growing a database. So I would say we started it probably back in 2010, and it just kind of grew from there. So there's people, again, you don't have to necessarily meet them face to face, especially today with technology and social media and everything. That you don't necessarily have to meet them face to face to decide whether they're good to add to your database. And I'll give you an example. So let's say I'm prospecting and I accidentally call on someone that just closed on their house. They're new to Detroit. They don't know anyone here. They don't need my services right now, but they would like to keep informed on what's going on in their neighborhood and what's going on in the market. that's a perfect candidate to add to the database because they don't know a lot of people here. I'm probably only one of a couple realtors that they've met to this point. And if I can be the one that stays in front of them for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I've got a better chance of getting that business when they go to sell, or at least getting referrals from them in the meantime.
So explain to me, actually, how do you add somebody to the database? Walk me through the minutia of that. I know it sounds overly simple, but I want to hear from you.
So, well, I don't personally do it anymore, but so I'm going to answer this 2 ways. So how I do it today is I take a lead sheet because I am a little old-fashioned. I don't know if I have one of those. Maybe they'll hear me and bring one in again. I take a lead sheet, all right, and after I have a good, let's just pretend this is a lead sheet for a second. After I have a good conversation with them, but they pre-qualified out, or for whatever reason they weren't ready to meet right now, I'll just write in black Sharpie, add to DB. All right, and then I take that piece of paper and I hand it to our transaction coordinator, and she puts them into CRM and sets them up.
And this keeps you out of the computer, which slows you down.
Correct. That's right.
So you're
that's how I do it today. Now watch this. Because you have people that are saying, well, yeah, but I don't have an assistant. I don't have help. Watch this. Back in the day, all right, I would take all my sheets where it says add to database in black Sharpie across there, and I'd stack them up in a pile for the week. All right, these people aren't going to be buying or selling in the next week or 3 days or 5 days. So there was no rush to get them in the database. I didn't need to stop what I was doing and go put them in. So at the end of the week, I would take my stack, it'd be up over here, and I'd set it in front of me, and I'd go ahead and enter them in once a week for 20 minutes. Boom, done for the week. That's how I did it before I had staff.
And enter it in, you mean like Excel?
Excel, yep.
Got it. And then you would take the Excel sheet and upload it to your email program for the emails.
Yeah, or somebody would do that.
Or somebody would. Okay, yeah. Perfect. Fair enough.
Yep.
This is great, man. So, everyone is just building their database by making calls. So let me ask this question. Let's go a little bit back. How to build your database from scratch. So it's like, okay, I go see Jeff. I have my call sheet. I'm making calls. You're building your database by talking to people, asking permission to stay in touch, throwing them in your Excel spreadsheet so they get your stuff. You mentioned briefly of who a new agent would call. Why don't we go a little more specific on, maybe who am I calling and what am I saying as this brand new person building my database from scratch? You mentioned expireds and FSBOs. A little harder to come by in a seller's market now. Yeah. What are some other sources would you say a brand new agent calls and talks to? Again, I moved to Michigan. I do not know a soul.
Yeah, understood. So there's 4 areas that I would focus on today. Okay. Number 1, you're right. There are less expireds today because the market's hot. So a lot of our inside sales associates are focusing on expireds from 3, 6, 12, 18 months ago. All right. There's an endless supply of those. So when someone tells me, there's no expireds on our market, there's no garbage. There's always expireds, even if there's old expireds. All right. Because what happens is at some point in time, they went through all this trouble to get their home ready. They got it on the market. They endured showings. It was a pain in the neck. And maybe they got offers. Maybe they didn't. They had a reason why they were selling in the beginning. So I don't care if it's 3, 6, 12, 18 months old. We still work expireds. Number 2, in a seller's market, yes, they're more successful. But guess what happens in a seller's market? You have a lot more for sale by owners enter the market. Why is that? Because they're confident. They're confident that they can sell. So they end up coming into the market. Now I get it, a higher percentage of them actually sell, but that's just a matter of getting in front of them and depending on what script you're using. Like I say to for sale by owners all the time right now, hey, listen, I know you can probably sell this on your own. You're not hiring me to get this house sold. You're hiring me to get it to a closing table, right? So I'm focusing on that piece of it. All right. Then you have circle prospecting. Very good time to do it is in a seller's market. Why is that? Well, it used to be called hot buyer, no inventory script. Hey, we just sold a listing over on Banana Street, and we have multiple buyers calling that are interested in being in your neighborhood. And it doesn't have to be your team, or it can be your brokerage, or you can call around someone else's sale. Just don't try to take the credit for it. Hey, a listing in your neighborhood on Banana Street just sold, and we have buyers and sellers calling every day. So I was wondering, who do you know that's moving, right? So just listed, just sold calls, and finally buyer leads. All right, buyer leads, obviously you got to pay for them in most cases, but buyer leads will have a conversation with you in most cases.
And probably join a team that's paying for those.
Or that, yep.
Yeah. Jeff, this sounds too simple.
Well, it's a grind, mundane, it's boring, and it gets old really quick. And that's why in most markets, there's only a handful of realtors that sell all the homes. And so, because what happens is everyone gets excited, right? This training class comes to town and everyone signs up for it and they're on the wagon for a couple days or a couple weeks. You know, it's like, okay, 100 people go to this class and they're all told to go do X. 1 week later, you got 75 people doing it. A week after that, you're down to 50. A month later, you're down to 30. 3 months later, you're down to 15, right? It just kind of trickles off. Why? Because it's boring, mundane.
Did I lose Jeff?
Exciting stuff.
Say that one more time. I lost you for a second.
The reality is that the boring, mundane, and the repetitious stuff of the job is what most people aren't willing to stick with. And that's why there's this huge disparity between the best and the rest. The rest got into business for freedom and flexibility and fun and showing homes and writing offers and talking to people and toasting at closings and going to happy hour after closings. Like that's not the formula for success.
So let's talk about the support that you provide your agents, who you call associates. I caught that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the support you provide them to get the actual marketing done. So, well, actually, no. I got two better questions. First, let's talk about the support structure that's necessary to actually get the calls made so you talk to people and add to your database consistently. There's probably some accountability. There's probably a culture. There's probably a system. There's probably some gamification.
Yeah.
Of like someone by themselves sitting in their home that hasn't done this before probably isn't going to consistently pound out calls all the time. They need to be in a supportive environment. Yeah. So let's talk about how to create a supportive environment to make the calls.
Yep.
And then I want to talk about, how do you create a supportive environment to make sure your marketing actually gets done, either by joining a team that provides a lot of that support for you, or you go hire it yourself to create the environment to make this happen. So let's talk about the calls. You tell me I have to add 3 people a day to my database, and I've never prospected a day before in my life, and I'm completely terrified.
Yep.
What do I do?
Well, first things first, you find another business. No, I'm kidding. No, so you have to. All right. So if you've never done it before, you first have to start with knowledge and confidence. All right. So knowledge and confidence will give you the willpower, if you will, to go and take the action on something you've never done before. All right. So what is knowledge? All right. When I'm talking about making calls, the knowledge is the scripts. All right. So as basic as it sounds, getting your hands on a good set of scripts that you're comfortable with. Okay. Which obviously, there's probably a dozen different trainers and coaches out there that provide them. We have them, gloveru.com. You can get them on there. So you got to get the knowledge first. Then you get the confidence through the repetition of role playing and chanting the script every single day. So remember, Frank, when I got into the business, I was 18 years old. I didn't know anybody. You might as well have dropped me in the center of San Diego. None of my friends were buying homes. I was 18 years old. I rented an apartment, right? I mean, I had no reason to be, trusted with someone's $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 asset. So I got my hands on a book of scripts and I chanted them and role played every single day because somebody told me that I was supposed to do that. And I didn't know any better. So I just, with blind faith, did it. And next thing you know, I'm going up against some of the best in the business. Why? Because I sound confident and knowledgeable in what I'm presenting. Well, why is that? Well, because I took a book of scripts and I recited it every single day, Monday through Friday, to myself. I mean, I remember in my cubicle, everyone thought I was crazy. I had a mirror. I would sit there by myself and just read the script word for word because that's what somebody told me I was supposed to do. So once I felt comfortable with the script, then I could get out there and present. And of course, I fell on my face a lot. All right. You're not going to win them all, especially in the early days. But I got out there and I presented and I learned, how to handle objections and how to close for the signature once I got out there. But it starts with knowledge, and the knowledge is the scripts. All right. And then confidence comes from mastering the scripts. Well, how do you master scripts? You write them out, you chant them, you role play them. Not once, not twice, but daily. Frank, I did that for 10 years. 2003 to 2014, I had a role play partner for 10 years. I still do it with our team.
That's great, man. So that's how you build the knowledge and the confidence.
Correct.
Doing it.
Yep.
What about the environment? Do you just sit at home by yourself and do this?
Well, certainly environment. Yeah, I got an interesting story about that. I had to leave my previous brokerage to come to the brokerage that I'm at now because I wanted to create my own environment. You know, like most real estate offices, there's two areas where you should not spend any time. All right, and they're normally near each other, so it's good if you avoid it. It's either the coffee maker or the water cooler. All right, those are two areas to avoid. Fortunately, they're both near the kitchen, so you just avoid the kitchen. But I wanted to create my own environment. So you're right. I understand it's tough to get energized and motivated when you don't have that exciting, energetic environment. So I had to leave my brokerage because they thought I would be competing with them if I opened my own office right down the street from them. So I found a brokerage that was cool with that. And yeah, so first of all, we got speakers in the ceiling. There's always high energy music playing. My personal favorite is Calvin Harris Radio, by the way. We always have high energy music playing. We've got a big, huge bell in the back that you'll ring when appointment is set. When appointment gets entered into our CRM or whatever, there's a big gong that goes off and their music plays, like a walkout song type music. We've got an accountability call every morning at 7:30. We have 10 a.m. meetings. Used to be 5 days a week. Now they're only 3 days a week, considering going back to 5. And what do we do at those 10 a.m.s? Right now we're going through a culture code mastery, but usually we're doing some type of role play. We've been doing that since we opened the doors in 2008. So it's a very high energy environment. It's very loud. It's very conducive to people calling next to each other and hearing the next.
These stand-up desks.
Yep. So we have stand-up, whatever, they go on top of the desks, but
is it right outside where you're at right now?
Yeah.
Take your laptop. Show us.
Okay. Hold on.
Show us real quick.
I'm in my Birmingham office today, and all of our ISAs are in Plymouth. But I'll give you an idea of what the environment looks like. So
move your laptop nice and slow.
Okay. So there's all your high tops. Okay. There's your bell. Okay, we got rankings going constantly. There's the bill, right? So basketball, we got to have fun, right? Prospecting can be boring at times, but music playing. We probably have Calvin Harris Radio on right now. Yep, yeah, this is Calvin Harris. See, I wasn't lying about that.
Good.
So there you go.
Oh, that's great, Jeff.
Are you ready?
Yeah, to someone, I think you have all this, working from home, sitting in your pajamas, and you're going to start making calls isn't really necessarily conducive to the environment for human behavior to succeed. But if I plug somebody in there with a lot of peers in the same situation, probably with the morning huddle you provide,
yep,
and give them the scripts and the chanting and the confidence and the list, it's going to get done, isn't it?
The environment piece makes a big difference because at the end of the day, you're either motivated by your environment or you're demotivated by your environment. And it's very hard to get motivated by your environment when you're working from home or working in an environment where there isn't energy and enthusiasm.
100%. You can go sit back down now.
Okay, sounds
Thanks,
good.
Jeff.
You guys took too long.
Thanks, man. All right, so next question, if you can still hear me. I want to talk about the supportive environment to get the marketing executed. Many people fall flat on their face getting the marketing done. So it's like, okay, great. I went through all this pain and suffering, learned how to prospect. I made my calls. I talked to people. I built this asset along the way. I have my daily call sheet where I write down to 3 people a day. And by the way, the title of this webinar, it's funny you said 3 because I just knew this because we've been trained by the same people. 3 people a day, 5 days a week.
Yep.
Is a 720 a year. So in the title of this webinar, we talk about how to add 720 people to your database in a year.
Yep.
From scratch. Jeff showed you how.
Yeah, I had no idea what the title was.
Well, it was how to add 720 a year, which is if you use the math of the 3 a day, that's what it works out to be.
Yep. Yep. There you
All
go.
right, Monday through Friday. So we're making the calls. Now we have to get the emails out. We have to get the content out. We got to get the events done. Talk to me about the support structure you've set up for yourself and the systems and the Trello boards or the checklist or whatever to make sure that gets done.
Yep. So a couple things. Number one, we're very big on accountability, right? So every day somebody's reporting their numbers. They're reporting 4 things a day, and that's contacts made, appointments set, appointments gone on, and contracts signed. Contacts made, appointments set, appointments gone on, contracts signed. So that number is being stated by our associates daily. So in our morning call, which is at 7:30 every morning, everyone's committing to that number for the day. And then so on the next day, so what's today, Tuesday? So tomorrow, everyone will have to come back and report how they did. And so that the accountability piece is a big part of the culture.
Oh, that makes sure the calling gets done to contacts. Let's talk about how do you know the database marketing is actually getting done?
Oh, I'm sorry. I must.
That's okay.
Yep.
No, that's all right. I want to talk about the database marketing. I know in that culture you have set up with your morning huddles, people know they're making their calls.
Yep.
Which is great. And they're reporting on it every day.
The database marketing. So help me understand what you mean by that.
Well, you have the monthly newsletter going out, the monthly email.
Yep.
You have the quarterly mailers that have to get done and out.
Yep.
I mean, are your agents 100% responsible for doing that on their own? Or are they set up?
Yeah, great question. So there's 2 parts to that. So the newsletter is made by our operations team, okay? And it's automatically sent out to the database by the operations team. All right.
Can I get a copy of that on your website somewhere I can show? Would you by chance post that online?
Yeah, yeah.
What's your website?
You mean like, is it out there right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find it.
I don't know. Hold on a second. Hey, Taylor, can you call her back in?
It's okay, keep going.
Yep.
Your operations team puts the content together.
Yeah, so our newsletter, is that on the internet anywhere? Like the one that went out for opening day, let's say.
I can post it.
Where?
It's to our clients.
But it's not like on the website anywhere.
No,
It's not public anywhere. It's just
got it.
It's an email that we send out. All right. So that's done automatically by the operations team. The mailings, now the agents have their own sphere of influence and past client database in addition to the company database, right? So what we do is for the company database, we put together what Jeff is going to send out to the company database. All right. And the operations team contracted out to people to help them with mailings. But for the most part, they all, for a week we do that. Well, that same mailing, we share it with the agents in a Word document or an editable form. So that way they can go in and put their information in or put their pretty face in. And and so we have what's called database days. So when we're doing, when it's say January, all right, and we got to get a year in review letter out, we're going to have a week, let's call it the 3rd week of January, where we call that database days. And during that week, that's our focus for the week. Everyone getting their mailers out and getting their calls in if they're going to make January calls, for instance.
That's great, man.
So it kind of goes back to the environment. It's part of the culture.
How many people are you mailing every quarter?
Direct
mail.
Probably 6,000.
6,000?
That sound about right? 6,000? Yep.
Roughly $1 a mailer?
Roughly $1 a mailer. Yeah. Yeah. Cause we're not doing any yeah.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea of that. That's good. Anywhere you can get a copy of the mailer online, people can see.
So being that you're requesting both of those, we're going to figure out a way to,
No, just wondering. I'm throwing you on the spot, but
yeah. So what I'll do is, I tell you what, on gloveru.com, on one of the drop downs where there's scripts, one of the drop downs, we'll put email and mailing marketing. All right. And so we'll upload some stuff to that. I can have that done in probably 24 hours. 24 hours, I'm being told.
Let's pull up GloverU real quick.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what drop down we'll put it under.
This is cool, man. Jeff, tell us about your upcoming event.
Oh gosh, the Live on Real retreat. So what's really cool about this particular event is it's 100% focused on listing mastery. And I'm not
here,
talking,
right?
What's that?
This is it right here, July 22nd through 24th.
That's right. Yep. That's right. So what we're doing at this event is listing mastery. So it's not just the scripts and skills and everything that you got to do. It's like, all right, where do you get the leads? What's the best way to follow up with them? What's the best things to send to them? What about when you go on a presentation? What does your presentation material look like? Like, for instance, one of the things we're doing is all of the attendees are going to walk away with a brand new value proposition. All right. So we're going to help them in developing their own value proposition to sellers right there on the spot. So besides for me, I know I've got like 6 sessions myself that are all an hour or 90 minutes a piece. So I'll be doing most of the talking, but we have like a dozen people traveling in from across the country that are all known for one thing, and that's listing mastery. So some of the names that you've worked with through the years as well are joining us for that. And it's going to be very much interview style. Okay, I'll take Frank Montroe from Chicago. Frank, tell it. Okay, you're the #1 agent in Chicago. How do you master listings in Chicago? What makes you stand out? What makes you different? And I'm going to go through that interview with every single person that we're bringing into that, in addition to what I'm providing.
That's great.
Yeah, and it just so happens to be in Traverse City, Michigan in the middle of summer, which is an awesome place. So I'm just looking at where we're going to put it. So under the learning experience, we'll have so there's Jeff Scripps podcast, Glover Gazette video library. We'll do like content library or something like that under the learning experience on Glover.
Yeah, like I think of marketing examples.
Yeah.
Would be really cool, man. People would love to see that, to kind of see how you format and the messaging to kind of give them a little head start.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Some of the stuff we're saving for the retreat, especially the listing focused stuff. For instance, like our listing presentation, I'm going to do a live listing presentation from the stage. That'll be fun. So yeah, but we'll definitely put the newsletter stuff up and the mailing stuff we talked about.
Thanks, Jeff. That's great. Where would someone go to get a ticket?
It's liveunrealretreat.com, LIVEUNREAL retreat.com, liveunrealretreat.com.
Jason asks, will there be a replay of this webinar? Absolutely. We'll have this up on YouTube and we'll send out a link for you guys to watch. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask right now. We'll kind of wrap up the last 10 minutes here. So with Jeff with some questions. You said you like jazzing up your content that you send out. What do you find are the most effective messages that get engagement or replies to your database when you're sending things out, that monthly message?
Yep. So I think the most effective stuff that we send out is the stuff that's personalized to us or them. And so we're not just sending out stuff that says, set your clocks back, general stuff. For instance, we do once a year. It's called Glover's Heroes. It's actually our foundation where we go around the community and make a difference in the lives of heroes. Well, when we can send out a video showing them everything that we've done in the Metro Detroit area or in the Grand Rapids area, that causes us to stand out amongst the competition. So as much as possible, we're trying to, the opening day thing, like the opening day video that we talked about, anything we can do that makes us unique, we like to show that off to them. Every time we win, even though we try not to make it about us, but when it's like a publicly known thing, like for instance, Crane's Detroit Business, coolest places to work. All right. When we win something like that, you better believe we're bragging the heck out of that. And because people know what Crane's Detroit Business is. So we try to personalize it to our area, to our neighborhoods, to our clients as much as we can versus just the standard boilerplate mailers.
So something not canned. That's what I take away from that.
That's right. Yep.
Good. Jason asks, is Jeff doing any social media marketing, any boosted posts or ad spend or something like that?
Yep. So we are doing some social media marketing. We're doing boosted posts. We're working with you guys. All right. So thank you, Frank, for helping us out with that. We have someone that manages our social media account, which if you just look up Jeff Glover Associates online, I will tell you that it's important to have However, it's not like it's not our top 5 sources of business, right? I would never say that Facebook is like our number 3 or number 4 source of business. However, what it does is it establishes credibility, because I know a lot of these people do research on us before we come out. So it's important that, we do a social media calendar. So all of our stuff is scheduled a month in advance. We find every reason possible to do a post. I think, I just heard them talking about doing something for Cookie Day tomorrow or something. I don't know. They try to find creative, out of the box things to make cool posts with, and be as active as possible on social media. Do we spend money to boost posts? Absolutely we do. There's a couple things that we do. Obviously, when they're brand new listings that we know are going to be hot, they're in good price ranges that turn fast, we'll boost it specifically to that area or to that city, because obviously we're looking for more seller leads. We do open house extravaganzas once per month, where we get 15 to 20 of our sellers to commit to an open house, and we boost the heck out of those to every single area that we're holding an open house. Again, most of our social media stuff is kind of geared towards trying to generate as many seller leads as possible.
Great. Jason, another good question. In your opinion, Jeff, is it worth door knocking on expireds, or is it best to stay in the office and stick to the phones?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have 2 thoughts on that. I think phone prospecting is more efficient. Face-to-face is more effective. All right. So now it's like, okay, which one of those words is better? What I mean by that is, in 1 hour's time, I can probably talk to 7 to 10 expireds in 1 hour, where if I'm going around driving town talking to expireds, I could probably only get to 2 or 3. And that doesn't mean that 2 or 3 will even answer, right? Depending on how far away from they are from each other. So I like the phones, unless it's one that I really, really want. Here's my rule of thumb. All right. So my rule of thumb has always been, if I don't have an appointment today, what did I accomplish? I need to be on an appointment. If I'm going to be in this business, I need to be on an appointment every single day. All right. So my rule of thumb was this, because I hated door knocking. It was like my penalty. If I couldn't get an appointment set in the morning for later that day, then for 30, 45, 60 minutes, I would go out and knock on for sale by owners and expired's doors, but only when I didn't have an appointment to go on. So the answer is yes, I think it is effective. And I would do both if you can figure out a way in your schedule to do it. How I did it is, I had in my schedule blocked off from basically 5 until 6 every day that I was on an appointment. And if I didn't have an appointment every single day, then I would be door knocking during those hours.
Cool. That's great. There were 2 questions I brought up really quick in the content for this. I want to answer. We skipped over. Let's assume you actually have a list. Let's say you're not, dropped into the middle of nowhere and you don't know anyone. If you want to reconnect with your database first, let me just answer this really quick. You basically just export the email contacts of some of the people that you know. We then recommend you run them through a service like NeverBounce. What this does is it's very inexpensive. It scrubs those emails to make sure like which ones are legitimate and good. So before you set it through like an email marketing program, it'll make sure that 99.9% actually get delivered.
Okay.
And then you just send them all a little email message saying that you're in real estate now and you're there to help them. And you plan on sending them, hey, every quarter I'm going to mail you an update. Once a year, we're going to do an event. Once a month, I'm going to send you something helpful. You want to kind of take someone's existing list, scrub it through NeverBounce, and get like that first little reintroduction email out to them. And it's important to say in there, if you don't want to hear from me, no hard feelings, just unsubscribe below.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to round everyone up in everyone's existing list to reconnect with them.
Yep.
I said we were going to share that. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
No, I think I'll tell you personally, we haven't done that, and I don't know if you heard me or not, but I just leaned over to my assistant and said, write that down. So, yep. I like that.
Yeah. So what you want to do is, whenever you have a new agent come on board, I would say, hey, let's go through maybe your phone. Let's go through your Gmail contacts. You could certainly dump them all. I'd recommend, just go circle the people that you think are legit. Come up with a couple hundred people, right? Yeah. And there's probably some, and then their emails are in there. And then what you do is just run them through NeverBounce. This is something we do for all of our new clients at Vyral when we reconnect with your list. This makes sure, like, when you email this kind of cold list for the first time, you don't get flagged. They'll get delivered. Yep. A nice little personal reconnect message. That's a good way to get a message out to every agent that joins you, kind of existing list, to start them with something.
Sure.
If they have an existing connection. Now the other thing too, the email service we use is called Emma. There's lots of different email marketing services out there. This is what we're sending your email with, Jeff. But what I really like about Emma, and most all email service providers do this, is you can actually track, hang on, where I want to show the app. Yep. You can actually track in real time who's opening and clicking the links.
Yep.
So let's say you send out a video on, the 3 things you must know before you sell your home this summer. Well, you can actually see who's watching it by downloading this little app. This is what Vyral clients get. You have this, by the way. Go download it. And any email we send out for you can see the engagements. Isn't that cool?
Got it. Yeah.
I usually recommend to call those people.
That makes sense to me.
So I just wanted to share those 2 things I wrote in the post.
Love it.
Jason also asks, what internet lead sources is Jeff investing in? Any Facebook home value ads?
Yeah. So 2 things. Number 1, we utilize Zillow leads. All right. So we have a lot of actual seller leads that we get on Zillow because we have almost 1,000 reviews. So we've been working on that again since we made database and customer service a focus of ours the last 4 years. We get good amount of leads from Zillow just organically because we have a lot of good reviews on there. So we buy Zillow leads. Also, to your question on the home value stuff, we did buy Bold leads, BOLD. And quite frankly, we added some of those to our database because we had good conversations and they're future sellers and so forth. But essentially what I ended up doing is creating an app called Upraise, Upraze, and that's a home valuation app that essentially we are promoting all around Michigan to build.
What is it again?
Upraise, Upraze.
It's an app?
Yeah, it works all over the country. We haven't done anything with the data yet, except for obviously we're dripping to them, we're calling them.
Oh, it's like a free home value report trip.
Yes. It's a little different than that because they actually take pictures of their home through the app. They enter home improvement.
Nice.
So yeah, that's our lead generation tool for CMA type leads.
And this is available to every agent?
So here's the deal. It works in all 50 states. The challenge is that we haven't yet got to a point to where we can let people access the back end and get leads of their own out of there. So it's coming. Okay.
Well, that's cool. Well, you're getting some good reviews on the consumer side, dude.
Yep.
Good for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Again, tell us about your event and where does someone go to get a ticket?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, this will probably be one of the best we're putting on. We'll have over 500 people there from around the country. It's in Traverse City, Michigan. The airport there, although it's a resort town, is serviced by American, Delta, United. So you can get there from anywhere in the country. liveunrealretreat.com. If you just Google Live Unreal Retreat or go to LIVEUNREAL retreat.com. 3 days of all focused on mastering the listing process. So we have teams that are bringing their entire, all of their listing agents, and obviously there's stuff for buyer's agents as well, but it's really a listing. If you're out there and you're like, I really want to master my listing game, this particular event is for mastering the listing game. And that's coming up in July in Traverse City, Michigan, which is gorgeous in the summer.
Wonderful. And I highly recommend it. If you have a chance to go get some real sales training. So when it comes to managing your schedule, when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to lead follow-up, when it comes to qualifications, sales presentations, even delegating a bit of the administrative side of the business, working past clients and sphere, what to say, to learn how to sell, Jeff is the guy to see. But it's not just hard cold calling selling. He has complemented that message well with many of the concepts at Keller Williams of some leverage and of database marketing.
Yeah,
he really has the full package, and it's not a shiny object distraction about let's get all of our business on Instagram.
Right,
Jeff?
Oh, it's the real deal. I tell people all the time, listen, there's not many of us who are standing on a stage sharing everything they're doing, A, and B, doing it day in, day out. I mean, one of the reasons why I was late to this, I was coming back from a listing appointment. So I'm on the ground every single day with our people. So I know what's going on, not 10 years ago, not a year ago, right now.
That's good. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming. What's the website one more time, Jeff?
GloverU.com. You can find everything you want there about our scripts, videos, events, all that stuff. GloverU, that's GLOVER, the letter U.com.
Sweet. Jeff, thank you so much for your
All
time
right.
today. We'll see
We'll
everybody.
see you guys. Thanks for having me on.